What's up, everybody?
Hey, everybody. What's going on?
Fuck this place. Am I
Dude,
right?
Fuck this place. Fuck this place.
Just wanted to give you everybody a heads up. Hello. Hi. That today's episode is a little bit different structure. Our guest is Ellory Smith. She's great. She had a little bit of a scheduling issue, so we ended up not doing our Craigslist game. Fuck this place? Question mark. But it is a wide-ranging conversation, so we decided to kind of leave it as is because we do kind of cover quite a lot. So we hope you enjoy. Nick, anything else?
Nah, just enjoy the show.
Fuck this place. What is my car? I haven't even seen it.
Yeah, I also, my wallet was stolen in February and I have not replaced my license yet because I just haven't wanted to go to a DMV.
Yeah.
Honestly, I agree with you.
Man.
Thank you.
Like the stigma towards the DMV has just got to have been compounded since the pandemic started. Like just no one wanted to go
it's a
before.
safe place to be.
Yeah, exactly. Even I see that they're like lining people up outside, but it just does not seem, it seems like it would be ground zero. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, especially because like, I mean, they were lining people up outside beforehand with their like gross hot dog stands and stuff.
Yes,
just like
exactly.
Yes.
The
Street
DMV
vendors would come.
Yeah, it's a DMV is like the portal to the end of the world. You know, like,
Yeah.
like that's the hub that everyone goes to get to another dimension that's much worse. But
And you're also there for 12 hours at a time. There's no like getting in and out.
You're basically working a shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, okay, so Ellory, this is how it normally works. Like I said, we play a Craigslist game and then we move right into the interview. But like I said, we're just gonna go right into it. So are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. All right, Ellory, what is the first job you've ever
We
had?
should intro the podcast. Well, hold on.
Oh, shit.
We have got to intro this podcast. No one knows where we are or what's going on.
What are we listening to? Yeah.
Will save us. Welcome to the podcast about jobs with Chase and Nick. It's called Fuck This Place. My name is Chase.
My name is Nick, and with us today is Emmy-nominated writer and fantastic stand-up comic, Ellory Smith. Ellory, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for doing it. So, okay,
we're ready.
Again. All right, take two. Ellory, what is the first job you ever had?
The very, very first job I ever had was I worked at a hot dog cart, like in my hometown that sold and made hot dogs.
Man, yeah. I am so sorry about saying all that hot dog stand stuff about the DMV.
It's so big. It's buried so far, like in my subconscious. It's fine.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, you don't necessarily you don't identify with.
I do not identify with hot dog stands. No, not typically.
Understandable. And you're originally from Albany, New York. Is that correct?
So I'm actually from a town called Cambridge, New York. That's about an hour outside of Albany. I went to high school in Albany, New York. I just tell people I'm from there because it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
Sure. People know the name. It's like, oh, it's a town. And
exactly.
We're good to go.
It's also really like I am from a town that's about like an hour north of Albany. It's like very, very rural. It was like maybe 5,000 people, maybe 2,500 people, very small.
Well, how'd you like growing up there?
I actually didn't spend a lot of time there growing up because I went to school so far away.
Oh, okay.
So like I really only like slept there, but that's like where my summer jobs were when I first started, like when I got my working papers at like 13, 14 or whatever. I guess I started working at the hot dog stand when I was like 12. And then when I got my working papers at like 14, the lady that owned the hot dog stand also owned like a restaurant and bakery. And then I worked in that bakery for a few summers.
So wait. Which town was the hot dog stand in?
Cambridge, New York.
Cambridge, got it. And
yeah.
All 5,000 people just came through every day.
Actually, I got so few customers. I always wonder how she paid me. I served like,
well, how
I did it for like
these hot dogs.
I probably like $1.50.
Okay.
And they had stuff on them too, like onions and stuff. But
sure.
I think like I did it for like 3 years. I think I maybe only served 2 hot dogs the whole time.
How old were you? How old were you when you said you did this?
I was like 12 to 14.
Okay.
And then when I was 14, I started working like in the bakery itself, and I would go to like farmers markets and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Was that busier than the hot dog?
It was a lot busier for sure.
So
And it was-
Well, maybe the hot dog stand was like her dream, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Propping up that dream.
were you manning the hot dog stand by yourself at 12?
I was, yeah.
Whoa. Did you
But
like?
I mean, it was like the restaurant that she owned would be in walking distance, basically. So she could like walk down and check on me.
So like, see you out
Also,
the
it was
window,
like
give you a thumbs up.
Yeah, it was a very small town, so I feel like things were different. Like we didn't lock our doors growing up until, I don't know, maybe like 2011, 2010.
I will say it definitely would feel like a different type of town if I walked in and there was a 12-year-old girl manning the hot dog station. And
Yeah.
that was just it.
It's not LA. Things are different there.
Yeah, like, can I hand you cash? Is that legal?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Nobody asked those questions back in
No,
the
of course
day.
not. So then the most of your response, did you like open and close? Or like,
Yeah.
did you
I
have
like
to-
had to light the pilot, like the gas, let the pilot light to like
Okay.
turn. I had like a candle lighter. It was really scary.
Mhm. Yeah.
So how did you come into this job?
My dad, I don't know, this lady were really close, and my dad was a mechanic who like would go to car auctions and stuff, and he like procured this hot dog cart for her business.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then I guess he was also like, and I have somebody who can work it for you, and then just shuttled me off.
Right. Yeah. So he attended auctions and is typically just like bidding on like, like really good mileage Camrys or whatever, and then he sees this hot dog cart and he's like, I know
exactly.
someone who could use
But
it.
every so often he would bring something home, like really, like he would see something at an auction that would be like, one time he saw like an old, like a vintage, like police bike, and he had to have that. So he would see like these like weird things every so often, and he would be like, this is too cool to pass up.
Right. And so hot dog stand on
And
the
that's
list.
how a hot dog stand. Yeah, exactly.
Well, a
exactly.
question then, was this hot dog stand unique looking in any way, or was it just like your
No,
basic,
not
like-
really. It was like basic.
Flames
It
on
was,
the side.
no, it was like metal, like that
Mhm.
shiny sort of like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With like a little umbrella maybe.
Yes, it had an
Yeah.
umbrella that was like rainbow and like had different. It was
Okay.
very
Classic.
par for the course.
Yeah,
totally,
classic
a
hot
totally
dog.
classic hot dog stand.
But not like
Nice.
retro, just sort of, it's like you could see that same hot dog stand on the streets of Manhattan as well as outside the DMV in California. It could be
Yeah, I
serving
mean, it
hot
was
dogs.
pretty. Those are like nicer hot dog stands. Like they have like
Oh, really?
plexiglass around them. Yeah, I feel like this
okay.
did not have. It was pretty beat up.
Mhm, Yeah.
It was
But
a,
it was-
it was a
but
pretty
it was
beat up
yours,
hot dog
though.
stand.
It was yours.
It wasn't even mine, but it was my
Oh.
domain for the summer.
Were there other people that worked at the hot dog
3
stand?
months a year. There were some other like neighborhood kids that every so often would work it. Yeah.
Mhm. Like, so it's just all these little kids working these very old curmudgeon man jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Like very
For the summer.
dangerous, lots of flames.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
You had
hold-
like
we have some
another
questions.
12-year-old friend that was a paramedic.
Yeah, just in case.
So, question: did you prepare the hot dogs? I mean, I assume there's like just hot water they go in, or something, or rollers.
I think it was hot water. I think they were boiled.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
that they were
yeah.
uh, grilled in any capacity.
No.
No. That would be too cool and not.
Yeah, and of course there were
nasty.
toppings. There were toppings, and then
Yes,
again,
there
for
was like a griddle on top for like the onions and stuff.
the- Oh, you would even fry the little onions.
Yeah, so there were some toppings, and then there were the hot dogs.
Man,
Well, this is bringing back some really unearthing some old memories for me.
Mhm.
That's
So
great.
That's what it's all about. What do you?
That's what it's all about.
What kind of shifts were you working?
Oh, I think like just afternoon. Probably, I can't imagine I was doing 8 hours, but I might have been. I was like just one of those things where you're a kid and you spend all summer. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
nothing is happening really.
Mhm.
And then
Yes.
when I got a little bit older and I started working at the bakery, that was kind of like a long day. Like I would go in early in the morning to like help bake stuff, and then I would go to a farmer's market for like 8 hours, and I would pack that up and come home.
Oh wow, that is a
Right,
long day.
Yeah, so
for
that
sure
was
a
like
long
much
day.
more labor
Mhm,
intensive. But I also got to eat like basically as much pastry as I wanted. So
Which is awesome. Amazing.
Killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Especially at that
spend,
age.
especially when you're like 14, I'd spend all day just like gorging on
Yes.
pastries of all different kinds.
Yeah.
Did you were you a fan of hot dogs? I always wonder that about people who work hot dog stands, because it's like some people love hot dogs.
When I was a kid, I've been a vegetarian for a long time now.
Mhm, mhm.
But when I was like in the 4th grade, maybe I liked hot dogs.
Kids love hot dogs. I think
Yeah.
that's
Kids love hot
universal.
dogs. Yeah, exactly.
It's very salty and it's meat, I think.
But by the time I was working the cart, I didn't eat meat at all.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You're just
gotcha,
fucking
gotcha.
chucking hot dogs at them. Like, here you go.
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't give a shit about these.
Yeah, you were like selling to people, and every time you pass, you'd be like, monster.
I mean, hot dogs are just like all of the worst pig parts. It's
No, for sure. No, everybody knows that hot dogs are the worst things. And then again, that's why kids like them.
I think that is why kids like them. I feel like it's some.
Well, I think we also just associate them with other fun things.
I think that's
that's true.
You know?
That's
just like
true.
you get a hot
It's
dog
like
at the movies, at the baseball game, like stuff that's fun. Hot dogs are there, kind of like the devil,
soda or cake, or the devil.
Yeah, it's always there.
Or like even like babysitters. You know, it's like if it's a babysitter night, you know, like it's hot dog night, or we're just gonna leave you alone for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
So did you have you said you only sold maybe like 2 hot dogs in that time, but like did you? So I was gonna ask if you had any regulars, or even if any of your buddies stopped by or anything like that. Nothing.
Because I didn't go to school like in the town.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
I
Yeah.
didn't really have any friends that went that like I knew around there.
Man.
So no, it was a pretty lonely experience, honestly.
Yeah, just alone with a hot dog stand. And
I mean, my dad was a mechanic in my hometown, and so like he would come say hi, and like he like knew everybody in the town, so people would know me and say hi.
Right,
but
right. Adults.
Adults. But for the most part, it was me like sitting on this stool, reading a book. I'm trying to think about what I would do all day long. I guess I must have just like read and stared off into space.
Isn't it wild that like, you know, I mean, I didn't think that I would be a part of this like so soon in my life that like there is such a division line between like what you could do with no time. And, you know, like you literally were like, what did I fucking do? Like there was probably books and also things that we often did, just stared at shit, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly. I would just like, I would stare into space for hours. I still do as an adult, but like, if I think about what I did, it was a lot of pretend. It was a lot of like just daydreaming.
A lot of pretend.
Oh, definitely.
And then I got a phone and all that disappeared.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes I'm on my phone and I pretend like I'm having a good time. So that could be part of the pretend.
Right. I pretend that I'm not looking at horror stories all day long.
Yeah. Pretend this isn't all extremely disturbing to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I remember riding the bus and just like looking out the window and being like, what if someone was running?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. I think kids still do that.
Or even just like counting like buildings and stuff, or like every third yellow building or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Little things that you didn't know were actually helping you keep your sanity as a kid.
Yes, exactly.
Keep you grounded.
Things that people who are in like, who are in really bad situations do to like have
to pass the time. Yeah.
So did your dad ever buy hot dogs from you?
Yeah, for sure,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
He was
not too often. He was a pretty healthy eater, so I don't think but every once in a while.
Just like, let's give the kids something to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you know you were, was there a promise of graduating into this bakery at any point, or was there? I
guess maybe sort of it was assumed.
Okay. You were just like, I'm associated. Another question. Did you have to manually move this cart by yourself?
Yes, I did. That was very tough.
Uh-huh.
And I had to like set up the umbrella too, and when it was windy it would like
because it
would knock me over. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what happened when it was like pouring rain? You just left the cart as is and went inside?
I can't remember ever doing it when it was rainy, so maybe we just didn't set it up when it rained.
Right. Sure.
That is just like remarkable that like to me that you're doing all this by yourself because maybe you'll sell a hot dog today.
This is such a grandpa story. I mean, like, and
it is such a grandpa story. Well, it's also like, but like, I feel like back in like your parents just wanted you to have something to do. Do you know what I mean? They were just like, well, you can't sit around the house all day, even though you totally could.
You should have sit at a hot dog stand.
I could have. I would have been fine. Exactly. It was just moving my sitting to somewhere else. It is weird to think like about how I had like a capital J job like during the summer when I was like 14.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll tell you right now, I didn't know very many 12-year-old hot dog salesmen.
Yeah,
that one's kind of a different.
especially on your own. There's
he's just out there by myself.
Yeah, there's 12-year-olds that help, that like, that are big helpers in somebody's store, and they get left alone for periods of time. But like, I mean,
it was just really a different. Also, I think like in small towns, time moves even slower. So like this was like the early 2000s, but emotionally in the town, it was still like the 80s. So like people didn't really care about like kids or what they did.
Yeah, emotionally, I agree. It does. I mean, I will say it does make sense if you're, if you're in a small town. Like, what the fuck else are you gonna do?
Exactly. And I think my parents were like, well, we'd rather know where she is.
Like there's only so many times you can go swimming in the river,
Yeah, exactly. This was the type of town where like our big summer thing was like taking tires and floating down the river, or like jumping off bridges into the river.
Like, you can still do that if you're working at a hot dog stand, 35 hours a week. Like there's plenty of river time.
Yeah, there's plenty of time, but there's not so much time that you can go like get fucked up and.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As 12-year-olds do.
Well, with that job, I'd believe you. If you were I was getting pretty trashed on the weekends, and then on Monday, I put on my fake mustache and go pretend to be a 50-year-old man working a hot dog stand again.
It sounds kind of like you. I mean, to some degree, either liked it or didn't know enough to not like it.
Also, I think like I just inherently understood that like jobs will be boring and like their work. But I mean, now I'm sort of like spoiled, and if I have a job that I don't like, I get really like bratty about it. But like I worked so many terrible jobs for so long, and I don't know that I could go back and like do some of them again.
I mean, the dream is to not go back,
Yeah, that's true. It's to never have to. But I constantly, especially now at stand-up stat, I'm like, oh, I'm probably going to have to go back to Trader Joe's.
Yeah. Everyone has that one, you know what I mean? Like that one that you envision. That's like, I can for sure go there at any time. Like the door.
Yeah, we can go back. That's true. I worked at Trader Joe's for 6 years on the East Coast. And then when I moved to LA, I tried to get hired out here. And it's so much more competitive that they wouldn't hire me.
That sucks.
I
know. We have heard that it is difficult, especially in big cities, to get hired at a Trader Joe's.
Yeah. It's such a popular job. I mean, it's definitely the best employee-employer relationship I've ever had. I mean, they do that so that like the employees won't unionize. So it's not like they're not doing it just because they're good people, but it is definitely the best corporation I've ever worked for. As a part-time employee, I had health insurance.
Yeah, well, that's an important point. I feel like, I just think that nobody talks about this enough, that like all the companies that like, where there's a lot of unionizing that's being threatened, like, for instance, Amazon or even like Uber or rideshare drivers, the like point that nobody talks about is like, if they didn't want their employees to unionize, all they would have to do is just treat them better. Yeah. Not like total fucking dog shit. Just like, for instance, part-time employers can get health insurance, like the most bare minimum, and they could stave that off for years, but they're still too greedy and feckless to do that.
Yeah. I also think there's a level of like, just idiocy to it that I don't think that big company X, whatever, like insert there, even has enough dialogue with their employees to know how
not at all. It would take
to know how little it would take to make them happy.
Exactly.
It's like they just would assume that they're going to want $50 raises, and it's like, I don't think so. I think it's very minimal. Would make your employees much happier, but there's no connection.
Wouldn't do it. Well, there's also, I think, like specifically in America, I think that there's a lot of rhetoric around like what people deserve versus what they're given. So I think a lot of employers think like, well, you actually haven't earned that. And it's like, shut up, shut all the way up.
Yeah.
Man, that's like the thesis of this podcast. Just shut up.
Just shut up.
All the way up.
I worked at a dog hotel, like when I moved to LA after I had already been staffed on a show, but like, because shows are contractual, they end. So I was sort of like, I was just on my way up in comedy. Like I'd worked my first comedy job, and then I was back to working this dog hotel, and my boss was a Cosby apologist. And like, I know.
But just real quick. That's the funniest sentence anyone's ever said on this. I was at my job at the dog hotel, right? And then my Cosby apologist boss.
Yeah. And he also called
like a Mad Lib.
Really? He called me I'm only saying this because I'm quoting him, but he called me a retard because I scooped dog shit the wrong way. You're supposed to go against the grass and not with the grain of the grass. Anyway, that was quite
good. Cool. Shit. I'm sorry. I know you're gonna hit me with that geometry right in the middle, picking up dog shit, my guy.
Exactly. He was awful.
Oh, fuck him. I hate everything about that guy so fast. So fast.
Well, it's also like, how do you work with like dogs all day long? Like, he would also get really mad at me if I ever called a dog a nickname instead of the dog's actual name.
Sure.
Awesome.
Well, sure. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah,
cool.
so awesome.
What a professional. What a consummate professional. Also, I mean,
his name is Reginald.
Exactly.
And we don't
Okay.
there's really no point in diving into it because it's such a hollow thing. But like, what could you even apologize about Bill Cosby? He's proven guilty.
I know. But this was before. Actually, I can't remember. This was like probably in 2017 or 18.
But the evidence was
absolutely there. Okay, but this guy, that my boss, was like, well, I was accused of rape in college, and that girl was lying. So I know, and I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Were you?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, she was lying, was she?
Ergo Cosby, a guy I've never met.
Exactly.
I know nothing about. We're getting a little too far away in this, but I will say quickly, it astounds me, dudes' willingness to defend dudes they don't know.
I've never met.
When every dude I personally know is a jealous boyfriend. It's like, you also don't trust dudes. So why are you so willing to trust a dude in this?
It's a stranger. Well, it's about property, right? Like, he doesn't trust. He's a jealous boyfriend because he sees women as property, and then he believes rapists because he doesn't think that women should have autonomy.
Yeah, it's a
Very well distilled.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Whatever. I'm not going to slam my head against that. That's not what this podcast is about.
But yeah, again, it is an extremely valid point. Why would you ever defend anybody you've never fucking met? Like,
especially, I don't know any guys that can name 5 guys that they absolutely trust. Like,
or
you know what I mean?
I do think that like a lot of guys have not examined their friend group, and I sort of like, well,
agreed.
I don't know any rapists, or I don't know anybody who's like that. When it's like, A, that's not true. You just haven't been around them when they're like that.
Yeah.
And B, I think a lot of men, like, if somebody who has as great energy as like somebody who's like as endearing as Bill Cosby can be that way, I think it makes a lot of men be like, oh no, like, who else in my life could be this way? So if they believe that like Bill Cosby is this thing, it means that they have to reevaluate like everything they sort of know about manhood and like what's possible and how like well you actually might know somebody. And that can be scary.
The stakes are high.
Yeah,
the stakes are high, to say the least. I mean, not as high as for women, but yeah.
No, not in any way.
I totally agree. Like I say, it just bugs the shit out of me that like it's just like you don't even believe what you're saying. So why are you choosing to defend this guy that like you don't even
You don't have to at all. You could just stop.
Because pudding or like Kodak.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Like, that's what you're basing this on. Like, but
it's like with Louis, right? It's like, are we really like, are we really so married to his material? Like, was he really like? I was a huge Louis fan, but
same.
But
he has failed us.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Like the thing is, it's like I don't know. Like the thing is, it's like no one's asking you to unlaugh at a joke you heard 5 years ago.
Yes.
You know what I mean? No one's asking you, like, it's just, but just go, oh yeah, but by the way, fuck this guy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's
he has plenty of lawyers. Like, you don't need to, he's fine. You don't need to defend him. He's paying a team to do that.
But anyways, back to the job stuff.
Anyway.
We were getting into something just because I was liking it all, but I wanted some clarification. Ellory, what would you say is the worst job you've ever had?
I think the dog hotel is definitely.
For sure. Okay, that's what I was kind of hoping.
For sure, I'm there. I was a receptionist at a music agency for about a month, and that was pretty bad. But just because like the people were incredibly insufferable and like were really mean to one another, and there was this one agent who would throw coffee cups at his assistant, and it was just like a traditional Hollywood.
Goddamn.
Yeah, that was pretty gross.
And you're just like sitting at a desk watching this, or are you subjected to that as well?
I was like, I think I only lasted a month there. They only trained me for a day, and I remember reading a lot of books at my desk, which is probably not what they wanted me to do, but that's what I did.
Hey, man, that's that hot dog stand life, man.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, exactly. I was just sort of like passing the time.
But this dog hotel. How long did you work there?
I want to say like 5 or 6 months.
Just long enough to realize like I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Well, I had I was like a dog babysitter, walker, nanny for like basically from when did I move out to LA? It's like 2016 to 2020, basically. So like working at a dog hotel felt like sort of a natural progression in that. But it was terrible and I hated it a lot. And I saw like dogs suck each other off all the time, which was pretty cool. It was like sort of it was like really the only good part about the job. But the rest of it was terrible. And a lot of the dogs
Wait, like all the time, you say? All the time?
Yeah, it would happen all the time. But like
a doggy hotel.
We were supposed to stop it though, so very little of it reached completion.
Sure. But they got a jolly or two.
Exactly. And a lot of the dogs were like Instagram celebrities or like dog actors. So they had
so they had bad attitudes. Okay.
Yes, they did. But they also had agents. So their agents would like call us or like come pick them up, and some of them were on diets. It was a really weird look into like Instagram dog culture as it was just starting.
How long, like, so, you know, there's a big difference between a doggy daycare and a dog hotel, right? Like what precisely, like, are they staying there for multiple days? Some
because it was people who were like in the industry and they would like go shoot on set and like some dogs were there for like months. Like we had a few dogs who would like be there for so long that they would become feral.
Oh my God.
Whoa,
it was really so like you could see like when one of the dogs was like losing it because they had been there for so long. And we had people like sleep overnight with the dogs, but it's still not the same kind of like one-on-one. You know what I mean? Like it's like one person to like 40 dogs.
Yeah.
So like that's that spectrum from like basically insane asylum dog up to like this dog does Valtrex commercials. Show him some respect.
Yes,
whatever,
exactly.
That's insane.
Wow. Man, just think about all those crazy dogs.
Yeah, and there was like the odd like celebrities dogs. So like every so often there would be like some B-list celebrity that would come in.
Yeah, like Tay Diggs comes in and just like,
okay, first of all, Tay Diggs is an A-list celebrity.
Is he?
Not be me. Yes.
So sorry, Tay.
Okay, who is a B-list celebrity that would come in?
Well, I don't want to name names.
Yeah, we don't want to name names. Well,
I mean, I don't
Richter,
think they listen.
Okay, Andy Richter. All right, I wouldn't call him. We'll call him A. Put him with the Tay Diggs.
Oh, I would say I don't know. I mean, who am I to say?
I didn't know if you wanted to.
Colin Hanks.
Okay, all right.
He had 2 little pugs that he brought in, and then some other ones, but I can't really remember.
It's like funny. We all kind of agree on Colin Hanks. Like that's where we all met. It's like, oh yeah, Colin Hanks.
He's a nice guy. He's like definitely one of the nicer clients.
So,
you know, that fits with the way his face looks.
His vibe,
really
yeah, exactly.
So what is your in to out on that everyday job? What are you doing? You go in and what happens?
I would go in. I spent the brunt of it like extremely stoned, but it would be like really really early shifts or like so you'd go in at like from 5 to like 2 or 3, and you would really it was like indoors, and there were 2 different dog pens, and there was one for big dogs and one for little dogs. And the first like few months I worked there, we would mix the sizes a little bit. So if there was like a really aggressive small dog, we would put them with the big dogs. But then one day there was this really aggressive Frenchie that we would let play on the big dog side because he was like a little bit bigger and he was really aggressive. And then this English bulldog like came after him and ripped his leg off. And like,
holy shit.
When I was there, so I had to like get in front of the bulldog and like try to get this Frenchie away. But obviously it didn't work. And then we stopped mixing the dog sizes.
So did the Frenchie die?
No, he was fine. I think they ended up reattaching the leg even.
Wow.
It didn't come clean off, but you could see the bone.
Oh yeah.
This is an intense job. And then you have just this guy that's just like, no, Cosby's tight, like in the background the whole time. Yeah.
Except for he was such like he was such a dick. He was like, he was awful.
Jesus Christ. What specifically, I mean, maybe you already answered this, but for getting into this dog hotel situation, was it because you were like in between staffing? You're like, oh, I'm done with this one show or whatever, and I just don't
well, I mean, it was the very first time that I had been staffed. So I obviously had done that job and then it ended and I was like, okay, well, I can't not have a job. Like they don't really, TV doesn't like, I was making basically minimum wage at that staffing job. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have any savings and I need a job. And I was already like dog walking anyway. And I had like dog walking clients. So I was like, okay, well, I can do that in the afternoons and like have another job in the mornings.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's,
so it seemed like a decent fit at first.
It seemed like a decent fit for sure. And Trader Joe's wouldn't have me back. So
bastards. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause man, I'm sure you applied around that time.
I did. I applied a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were just like, yeah, fuck off.
Basically.
Yeah. That's tough. So you never had to stay overnight, or did you with the dog?
I did once or twice. They had overnight shifts, but they tended to be from people who were like a little bit more serious about the lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle.
Yeah, like I don't know that he trusted me enough to put me there overnight.
Right. Was this you? Was this the guy who was all about Bill Cosby? Was he a supervisor, or was
he was he was like the manager and owner.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Owner. Manager is one thing. Manager owner is a whole different. So like
he was also just, it's like, how do you work with dogs all day long and just be so unhappy?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Was there dogs that stayed there just for the day, or was this really a long-term only situation?
Some did. They were like, it was probably 50-50. Some did daycare and like their parents would come back every day, and some boarded. But because like people would do both daycare and board, sometimes the dog would think that they'd just be coming for the afternoon, and then they would actually be there for like a few months.
Right.
And that's always
that's when
tough.
they lose their mind.
And that's when they start to lose it a little bit.
Yeah.
Understandable. This is like
just kind of like you see those dogs, and then what do you do about them? Do you just like avoid them for the day?
It always made me feel really sad, and I didn't know. I was sort of like hands off at that job, I guess. So like one of the other staff members would talk about it, and I would just be like, "Oh, that's kind of fucked up," and then I would just like
comes in.
Yeah, exactly. I was stoned like through that whole job, and there was also like there was a break room, but all the food in there was for like our boss was selling us snacks. Like to make money off of us while we were on break.
Get the fuck out of here. The Cosby guy?
Hold on a second. Yeah. What were they in a vending machine, or was it like a refrigerator with just like stuff you have to pay for?
It was like a refrigerator, but it was also like snacks that were like bought from Costco, basically like huge boxes of granola bars, and the granola bars were like $2 each.
Oh my fucking God.
It's like you could see like what he had paid for them because the sticker was still on.
Right.
And so, but the thing
$2 for the whole
exactly. But you would get so hungry because you were on your feet all day long that you'd just be like, fine, okay.
Yeah, of course. And those are the worst. I'd say the granola bar is the worst snack in the world. I mean, I'm not saying it's the worst for you or anything. I'm just saying like I've had it so many times.
It's like, definitely been present at all of my worst. Like,
like
when I was like a camp counselor, all of my worst like job. You know what I mean? Where you just
all
like
the low points. Granola bar is right beside you.
I just think it's weird that it's like
because it's there. It's never a choice.
It's a candy bar that's like gone through an earthquake every time you open it. Like it's just this crumbling building of a candy bar I'm having right now.
Yeah, I don't even fuck with the Nature Valley ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's not. You can hear it rattling around. Oh no, thank you. Okay. So, man, I am so bummed about this dog hotel job because in my head I'm like, oh, probably cool mysteries being solved by the dogs. You know, like some cool stuff going. At least one dog with a monocle. I want to say, but it just sounds like it was pretty rough. I mean, I get you said it's your worst job, but it's like, man, that's fucking brutal.
It was really, really rough. And I mean, I love dogs.
Sure.
It was I think it was just like the environment. Like it was inside. There were very few windows. My boss was really, really mean to me. You didn't like work with you worked basically alone. Like you couldn't talk to anybody.
I don't think I've ever heard, Ellory, in your defense, Nick, I don't think that I've ever heard of a person who worked at a doggy daycare who came away clean.
Was such a bad. Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they no. I typically hear people. I'm not saying that it was like. I will say this is the first time I've ever heard someone talking about dogs going feral. But most of the people, and they're almost always tend to be comics who have worked at dogs care are just like, yeah, it fucking sucks, asshole. Because either the management sucks, or the dogs suck, or the owner sucks.
Or the dog parents owe it. Like I feel like, for the most part, I have had very few dogs that I don't like, but there have been a lot of parents where I'm just like, oh, your dog is shitty because of you. It is definitely a lot of work, especially when the dogs are like Instagram famous, so their parents like actually believe that they're famous, and it's yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I ended up working later as a copywriter, and I ran their social media for this dog toy company. And they would put on like Instagram pop-up. Like I went to this, it was a Shiba Inu block party. So it was like this warehouse. Yeah. And all of these famous Shiba Inus came, and they had like set up these different like Instagram stops where you could take a different picture. There was like a boba tea, and like one where like the Shiba Inu would sit in the piles of like, you know, stuffed toy Shiba Inus. So stuff like that.
Cool pictures for dogs.
Exactly. So they could like put on their page, and people would bring their dogs like hopped on Xanax, just like completely.
What? The dogs are on Xanax?
Totally. Some of them are. Some of them enjoy some of them enjoy posing, but a good handful of them are legitimately like on downers.
Right.
So that they are like
do whatever you want.
Exactly. So that they're much easier to like pose and take. It was such a dark side of like the whole.
Yeah, I didn't know that famous dogs had that dark of a dark side.
Oh, they definitely. Well, because if there's money to be made, obviously, but like people would have like cards for their dogs, like business cards with their like Instagram handle on it, and they would drive. Some people came from Las Vegas to LA to do it, to go.
Man,
whoa.
I guess the money to be made is selling products essentially on Instagram.
Yes.
Promoting products like that.
Getting sponsored.
You know, like they're not going to do that many like appearances, you know.
No, it's not the appearances, it's the ad money that people are like how much people are willing to pay per post.
Yeah, that's
and it
nuts.
I know, and the numbers like it can be pretty good money.
Of course.
Yeah. It's so weird they have these like a Shiba Inu party. It just seems like that's such a specific thing that I can't believe it would be real. That makes sense. Like, so I'm sorry, I forgot. How long did you say you did this for?
Well, the dog hotel was like 5 or 6 months, and then I worked for that dog toy company. This was like when I worked for the dog toy company, it was a writer's position, so I was like writing copy for them and doing their social media, and that was like closer to 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Did you get that from this? Like from the dog hotel thing?
Dog hotel? No, but I think it helped. I learned a lot about dog breeds because I'd already been like walking dogs and babies, so I'd been working like in that dog space for a long time. But I think that the dog hotel helped me. I learned a lot about dog breeds pretty quickly and like what their temperaments tend to be.
Right. And if you know that, you are like light years ahead of everyone else's dog knowledge. And it seems fascinating, but it's really just like basic dog knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, golden retrievers are people pleasers, and Labradors are loyal. For the most part. And you also learn like which dogs are like smart to a fault and which ones like Dalmatians are idiots because they're mostly inbred, so they have a lot of like medical issues.
I've also heard they can be aggressive too, Dalmatians.
Yes, they can be aggressive, but it's because they're like inbred or like specialty dogs, like French bulldogs. They're so expensive because they have to be inseminated. They can't give birth.
They can't be naturally birthed. Yeah, because of the shape of their tops versus their bottoms.
It's so like gnarly. It's such a gross fact. It's huge.
It's weird because then you realize that they're not dogs as much as they are creations, like monsters.
They are.
It's like, you know, and which sucks because I love French bulldogs. I think they're so funny. Like they're always like built like little tanks, and then I always see them doing funny stuff on Instagram. But
their existences are hell. They're like GMO dogs. They're like dogs.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. They're like little creations. They're like little lab monsters, which is super weird.
They're like test tube pets.
That sucks. So you learned about. It wasn't that you made a contact, you know, while you were at this dog hotel.
Yeah, it's just that it gave me the information to be good at my job going forward at other jobs in that realm.
Wow. Damn. Well, Ellory, before the podcast is over, we always ask 3 questions just to make sure we covered our bases. And question number 1, which we're sort of touching on, but we haven't actually nailed down for this dog hotel situation, is when were you done and how did you quit? Like, when did you know you had to get out, and then how did you actually get out?
It was right before Thanksgiving, and my boss was like, everybody has to work Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and I had already bought my tickets home.
Yeah.
And so I was like, And I had scheduled a bunch of comedy shows like in Boston and in New York. And I was like, listen, I can't, like, I'm going home for these days. I can't be on the schedule. And then he just was like, okay. And then he never scheduled me again. He didn't like ever fire me. I was just like,
whatever.
Yeah.
And
but I
you
do
were just
remember
gone and thought when you come back, like, well, I'll just do something else when I get back.
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't really expecting them to ever call me again, but I was also like, fuck that job. I had also, this one girl that I worked with, her dog had broken its leg and she had to take it to the vet. Like, and she called in from the vet and like couldn't come to work that day. And my boss was so mad. I remember I heard him call his lawyer to be like, what is the least amount of hours I can give her without like firing her? Because I don't want her to be able to collect unemployment, but I want her to be like off of work for the week. And so I remember him being like, can I schedule her for like 1 hour?
Jesus Christ.
I know. It's just a bad guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of those small business owners. I mean, they're around, but it's especially in LA. I feel like because there's just such a large body pool that they can work with, you know, and especially for jobs like that where people like. I think in particular those jobs that look half fun.
Oh yeah, well I think like basically in the economy forever in Los Angeles, it's been like you are instantly replaceable, like across the board. Like the working person has essentially no rights, and like because unions don't exist anymore, if they say no to any sort of work environment, like they're immediately like with my current job right now, I'm always like, I wish I had like the balls to take my lunch. Like I don't get paid for lunch, but I always work through it because everybody else at my company does, and if I don't, I'm so easily replaceable.
Yes. Yeah. Like, we just like to have lunch at our desk. We just really like that. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I also think that they've like just I think we have a culture in this country that like pushes this idea on you that if you're not breaking your back, then you're not doing it right.
Yes,
like
exactly. You're not doing enough.
Yeah, like it's like I think it's like fun to talk about like a hustler's culture or whatever, you know, people who are just grinding or doing whatever, and then that gets taken advantage of in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, it's like grinding for what? It's like, well, it's also just like pitting your employees against one another to see who can make you the most money, and like. All of them think that they're the next one, like on the elevator up. In reality, like the elevator doesn't exist.
They
just cut the cords, and they're like, there might be stairs if you build them.
It's just it's like a lottery mentality where they just think they tell you that the harder you work, the more lottery tickets you have, and you might be the guy that goes up or whatever. But there's no lottery tickets, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's horseshit.
Okay, well, question number 2 is, what's one good thing from the dog hotel? What's one good thing you took from that very bad job? Would you say?
Definitely like learning so much about dogs and like
breeds.
Different the breeds. Yeah. It like told me what kinds of dogs I do and don't want or want to work with. And B, it's just like good. It's sort of nice to be like really knowledgeable about a very random thing because like so many people have dogs. It's such easy small talk.
Oh, for sure.
So like when I take meetings with people now, like as a professional, I can be like, oh, you have a golden doodle. Did you know this about them?
Oh my God, that's so great.
Although the guy that invented the golden doodle breed said that he created a Frankenstein and it was his life's worst regret.
That's hilarious.
I know.
That comes up as soon as you tell them a fun fact, and then you always follow that up, and you're like, "Well, how come
it is?" If somebody has a golden doodle, I do tell them that fact because I think it's like it's very, very funny.
Yeah, you're just like petting their dog, and you're like, you know, the guy who made these jumped off a building, right?
He really he's like very upset about having done it and how popular the breed has gotten.
Right? Yeah.
This guy
so great.
He was playing God.
Yeah, he called it like a Pandora's box of like genetic mutations because now there like are so many different designer dog breeds.
Right, because he didn't like the introduction of the doodle, and like what specifically was his problem with it? I mean,
well, they have a lot of health problems, right? But also because it like started this movement of like designer like crossbred dogs, so they have like Chihuahua Great Danes now, like dogs that should not be crossed with one another, and like because they have like severe health problems.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So there we go. There's the monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to know. Hope your golden doodle's doing great if you have one.
If you have one, and they're also, just very, very expensive.
Right. Sure. But yeah, then that's like a specific knowledge set. But it's also rather broad. You know what I mean? It's not like, I know a lot about, I'm trying to think of like VW Beetles. You know, it's a little too narrow. You know what I mean? But if you know a lot about that actually comes up in conversation, knowing a lot about dogs, whereas knowing a lot about, you know, the history of like Nintendo is kind of like, all right, dude,
it
like,
is
we're
like
good.
a pretty applicable knowledge.
Yeah. You never feel like,
cool.
feel like you're forcing that knowledge on anybody else.
Exactly.
You know?
So it makes for good small talk.
Yeah. Shop talk. Okay.
Shop talk. Exactly.
Well, then question number 3, not about any of those horse jobs, is a little more like swirly. And it's kind of like, well, you know, we've all kind of not had a life for 6 or 7 months, 9 months, however long it's been. And a lot of people's dreams are kind of put on hold. And it's kind of like a question of like, what happens if it doesn't really unpause in a way that's like, I don't know, productive or big enough for you, or like, just like, what have you been thinking about since
dude,
COVID started?
I don't know. I've only recently sort of like come to terms with the fact that like, this is obviously the longest I've gone without doing stand-up in 7 years. It's been really difficult. And I hate doing Zoom shows, so I'm not really doing them so much.
Not great. Yeah.
They're not great. They're not fun, and they make me like miss stand-up even more. It's just, it's really sad. I don't know. My manager is like, please write something, and I should be doing that, but I don't know. It's hard to think about like what comes next in entertainment when like the world is in such a tough and like precarious place.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't feel like doing comedy. I don't feel like
does the world deserve to be entertained?
Exactly. But it's also like I miss stand-up so much. It like hurts me. And I realize that that's like where I saw all of my friends. It's what I did every day.
Sure.
And it's like, now what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big structure.
It was a big structure, especially because like I've worked from home for the last 3 years. So it was the only time I left my house.
Yeah.
And like, I had like basically stopped seeing everybody in my life who wasn't in comedy because like it was all I did. And I finally had a show that was like taking off, and then that just disappeared, and now it's all gone. So anyway.
So yeah, I mean, you know, so you're saying basically it's really only recently that you kind of like finally settled into just that space.
Yeah.
Like recognizing
or
that.
like, I guess more like reconciling the fact that like, if I want to stay involved, I'm going to have to find another way to do it. Like I'm going to actually have to like write something, or, I mean, a lot of people are turning to like sketches, but I don't act. So it's tough to think about like what I want to do. I don't know.
You don't have to have an answer. That's
Thank you.
Not what this podcast is about.
I sort of see like outdoor shows coming back.
I do see that.
Every picture I see from them, not enough people are wearing their masks for me.
Sure does seem like that as well. It's sort of like good that that's going on, but like, do some people see that as sort of like a free pass?
Yeah, I'd love to perfect it a little bit more before I go back.
Again, drifting in another thing, but the masks, it's like weird to me that if I'm throwing a backyard show, I go like, hey, everybody wear your masks, because for no other reason, this is my fucking house. And I'm just telling you, that's the rules. That's the rules. And so, and I get that bothered in that same way.
I think it's really hard. I think it's hard for even well-meaning people to stick to that protocol.
Yeah, especially as they start drinking. Do you know what I mean? Like it can be tough, and people need to like itch their nose, scratch their face. There's too much like room for error inside of all of it.
I agree. And then also I think that it's one thing we've discovered, if nothing else, is that the human desire for that connection is extremely strong. So even in people who are not like there is a deep tendency, you know, in the few situations I've been in, with and without drinking, where you're masked, where there's a party that says, yeah, but it's not about us. Right? Like,
exactly.
Like, there's just something about like, well, yeah, but you're safe, you know, you, this other person, and I'm safe, you know, we can show. It's like, I think it's a vulnerability thing. And like, we want
it feels like worlds ago. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels like such a different timeline, all of it. It feels so far away.
But I'm just saying, like, even people who want to do a really good job of wearing a mask and being whatever, I just still think there's like this like lizard brain part of us that is just like, yeah, but we're safe once you get into that setting.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But we're all cool here. And it's like, well, no, we're not.
Well, it's also, it's like, I think it's hard for people to visualize like how many people's circles overlap. So it's like, if you only see 2 people, those 2 people might see 5 people each. So then like now your circle is 12 people.
Yep.
And so I don't think that people understand like how far back that network goes. Like It's like that wedding in Maine where like
Yes.
three people died, but none of them had been to the actual wedding.
Correct.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, it was like this whole, everyone had convened, and like this whole town, like a bunch of people got sick, and then people, and none of the people who really got super sick or died were actually at the wedding. It was just that this wedding brought it.
Where it had spidered out from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Ellory, where can people find you on the internet if you'd like to be?
You can find me at Ellory Smith. That's at ELLORYSMITH on Twitter, and on Instagram it's at Ellory_Smith.
And we'll put the links to that in the show notes so people can just click it and arrive there. Ellory's
Thank
Twitter is
you.
always a wild ride. And
what
worth
a
it in
polite way to
case you
put that.
haven't. I think it's a great time. So
Yeah, I also enjoy it.
That's how I feel about it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being on
thank
today,
you.
Ellery. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun. Hopefully I'll see you guys soon back on
Yeah, it'd be great.
stage.
Yeah, hopefully. And fuck this place.
Yeah, fuck this place.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Hey, if you had a swell time and you want other people to find this podcast and also have a swell time, leave a review. It could say whatever you want. It could be like, Chase rules, Nick drools. I don't know. Or Nick eats poopy doo-doo for breakfast. Whatever you're feeling right now, leave it wherever you listen to this. I would appreciate it so much. All right. Bye for now. Fuck this place.